Okay now. That wasn't perfect, but 10 points on the road, 27 unanswered. That team I saw on Sunday, that looked a lot like the 24 Commanders. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to talk about the Washington Commanders beating down the Los Angeles Chargers 27-10 on the road on the left coast in Week 5. Guys, we are here to discuss everything that happened out there on the field. Jayden Daniels return in front of his home crowd, his friends and family. Jacory Croskey-Merritt erupting on the national scene. A dominant defensive performance after it looked like it was going to be a day filled with misery and woe. We have so much to talk about here, guys. We're about to jump into it. But before we do, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on this video. The like button is the easiest way to support me and support the content. And if you're a new viewer around here, why not hit that subscribe button? I'm back from my trip, which means the daily uploads, they will resume. And it was a highly successful personal week for me. Got engaged to my girlfriend, super pumped about that. Had some truly beautiful moments. We had the family come in. There was a surprise party. It was awesome, but nothing made it sweeter than closing out with a win for the Commanders here. Getting back to 3-2, getting back in the W column. The Eagles lost their game as well. All things have not looked right for them all season. Now they actually finally lost where they probably deserved to several times beforehand. Is this division race over, or is it only just beginning? We've got so much to talk about. Who stood out, the key players, the offense, the defensive battles, the game script, and of course the 5 names to remember, which is my series for my reactions after every game throughout the course of the entire year. The 5 names to remember, players that stuck out for good, bad, and ugly reasons. We are going to get to them in just a moment. Before we do, let's talk about what happened in this actual game. So it started off very wobbly, and I was highly concerned. In my game prediction, I had said the Chargers were going to win 24-23. And about halfway or so through the first quarter, it looked like I completely undersold it. This looked like a 38-7 blowout. The offense wasn't getting anything going. The team was down in a 10-0 hole. First possession of the game, first third down of the game. Justin Herbert rips off a 40-yard something run. Reeves completely whiffs on a tackle. Wagner doesn't have the speed to chase him down. Then you've got Sainristil jumping off on a field goal. The team had gotten the stop on third down. Reeves actually made up for the missed tackle with a PBU in the end zone. But then Sainristil jumps off for an offsides on fourth down. It's a first down for the Chargers. They then score on a touchdown to Ladd McConkey. A couple drives later, you give up a 29-yard pass on third down. Quan and Lattimore run into each other while playing off coverage. Luvu misses a tackle that would have been a TFL in the flat, and it becomes a first down for Amari and Hampton. Jayden didn't look sharp. He was slipping while he was trying to scramble. He was missing passes. All of this is going on. And at the end of the first quarter, it's 10-0 Chargers. They completely have the momentum. And Washington on the road this season, the starts, they've just been so bad at coming out ready to play football. They go down 14-0 on the road at Green Bay. They go down 10-0 in the first quarter on the road in Atlanta. And here, once again, they're on the road down 10-0 in the first quarter. But just as it looked like it was about to completely slip away, Justin Herbert completes on a deep pass to Quentin Johnston. Quan Martin, who has not had a great start to the season, but is a player that all throughout the offseason, the preseason, we heard that he's ready to take a Pro Bowl leap. He's ready to become a leader of this defense. Quan Martin makes a play that completely changes the script of the game. Johnson catches that deep pass. He's running over the middle. Quan Martin comes up, meets him aggressively, sticks his head in there, pops a fumble out. Marshawn Lattimore scoops up the recovery. And from that point on, there was like, you know how we measure dates in AD and BC? That was BQ. There was BQ and AQ before Quan and after Quan. Because up until that play, Washington had nothing. Chargers got everything they wanted. From that moment on, the Commanders' offense suddenly found a rhythm. The defense dug in. The Chargers couldn't get anything going with their passing game. That was the line in the sand where you say, okay, this is where the Commanders came to play. From that point on, 27 straight unanswered points. Jayden settled down. He was dominating as the playbook got opened up. He was connected on deep passes all over the field. Bill was running wild on them. The defensive line was eating. Dorance Armstrong was getting sacks. Von Miller was getting sacks. Johnny Newton was getting sacks. Everything started going their way. Now, as I say that, this wasn't a perfect performance, okay? There were still moments, and that's the theme of this game, moments that went in the Commanders' favor. There could be games where they go in the other team's favor, and that would have been a loss. You want a big example of that? How about the punt return touchdown that was called back for roughing the kicker, which it absolutely was. Nailed on correct call. But Ladd McConkey did return that punt for a touchdown. It was going to be 17-7 with about a minute, maybe a little less than a minute left in the first half. But instead, you get the ball back at 10-7 and immediately nail a 50-yard bomb from Jayden to Luke McCaffrey. So those moments, those key parts of the game, that's what determines the final score. It looks totally lopsided at the end, 27-10. And when you consider how it played out, when you fast forward to the end of the game, that's the right score. The Commanders did dominate. But at that moment, when that play happened, the Chargers had been dominating. It looks like they're up 17-7. Instead, you get it tied going into halftime with the ball coming out to start the second half, which I believe you score on. Yeah, you definitely score on that. I think it was a Croskey-Merritt touchdown run. So those are the moments that completely changed the game. And to seal the deal, how about Mike Sainristil picking off Justin Herbert in the end zone? Great team play. The rush didn't get home, so Johnny Newton gets one of those bear claws up there, gets a hand on it, knocks the ball off its course, goes to Sainristil. He catches it, doesn't drop it. It's not a PBU. It's not TFL. You let the Chargers kick a field goal or maybe go for it on fourth down. No, you come up with the interception. Don't give them the opportunity and seize your opportunities when they are presented to you. As the team loves to say, tips and overthrows, we got to get those. And Sainristil got it, and he got his second interception of the season, second interception in 2 games. Mikey was a ball hawk when he was at Michigan. Hopefully, we are going to start to get more of this. And shout out to Johnny Newton, because I know Sainristil is in position, but Herbert's got a rocket arm. He might have been able to sneak that ball in there. I think it was to Keenan Allen. Johnny Newton doing a great job getting his hand on it, making sure that he gives his teammates the chance to make plays, and that is exactly what they do. Some stats and general notes here before we talk about the 5 names to remember. I still think there's a lot of work to be done with this zone defense, which the Commanders ran a majority of the game. And for those who want to talk about Joe Witt Jr.'s scheme, I can't tell you how much the scheme has changed and has evolved, adapted to the moments. Okay, so that's why when people want to call out Joe Witt Jr., if you want to call him out for not instructing the team well during practice, not making sure players are on the same page, things of that nature, I'm cool with that. The scheme-related stuff, that's why I say, no, I can't agree with you here. Because all throughout the offseason, we heard this is going to be a cover 1, cover 0, man coverage team. And then as the season's progressed, we've seen more and more and more zone coverage. Well, in this game, you want an example of it. Marshawn Lattimore ran a career low for man coverage reps, and he was still the starting quarterback. That's not because he was on the bench. He was playing, but the team was playing zone heavy, and it worked to a certain extent. Now, Justin Herbert was dicing them up, and this is what I would say. The zones are open, and if you're going to give the other quarterback time in the pocket, they're going to pick them out. Any accurate quarterback of Justin Herbert's level of accuracy, he's going to find those open windows, and he did. He completed above 70% of his passes in this game. I thought he was pretty lethal. A lot of the short intermediate stuff, it was just pitch and catch for him. Really no trouble. Also, if I go back to some of those big plays, how about early in the second half? I think it was right after the Commanders had scored to start the half. You get Newton with a sack, and then the next 2 plays are big explosive pass plays where Herbert just throws some beautiful balls, but both of them are walked back because of penalties on the offense. But that was an example of Herbert dicing up that zone coverage. It just didn't come to be for anything. So I don't want us to look at this final score and say, okay, everything's perfect, we fixed everything. No, there was the punt return touchdown that was called back. There was the interception. There was those penalties on those big explosive plays. There was the fumble by Johnston. Credit to the Commanders for making those moments happen, but also something like a penalty. that's kind of a bailout, if we're being completely honest. If it directly influenced the course of the game, okay, but like an illegal formation or illegal procedure, whatever that second call was on the second penalty, that didn't really change the outcome of the play. It was just an illegal setup from the start. So things to work on there with the defense. But that being said, you have to be encouraged by what you saw. Also, it was good to see Jordan McGee in this game. A lot of us have been campaigning for him to get some extra reps. I know that I'm saying, look, I don't want him to start, but I do want him on the field because his speed offers something that's not currently present for the Commanders, and it can change the game. Well, you saw him fly off the screen. He flashed so hard. He missed a tackle early in the game, but he actually got into the backfield and rerouted the running back, which allowed the cavalry to get there and take down, I think it was Hampton for a no-yard gain. I think it was just a play that went from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10, something like that. But that was a result of Jordan McGee. Also, the first defensive play of the second half, he rifles into the backfield on a blitz. Again, doesn't get Herbert on the ground, but he swipes at his legs, knocks him off balance, and he flushes Herbert into Johnny Newton, who then gets a sack. That was a result of Jordan McGee. And then on the goal line, which he's been on the goal line package for pretty much the entire season, but there's a run to the left. I think it was Vidal or Vital, however you want to pronounce his name, because I remember the commentators pronouncing it one way. I was like, I could have sworn it was Vidal. However you pronounce it, he's run to the left, and McGee just shoots the gap perfectly, takes him down for a 3-yard loss, and the very next play is the Justin Herbert interception. Most plays from the 1-yard line are touchdowns. Most run plays are touchdowns. So the fact that you not only stuffed him, but you knocked him back 3 yards, so now you're at the 4-yard line, and the Chargers are incentivized to throw the ball, that leads to the Mike Sainristil interception. So very good game for Jordan McGee, even though he was barely on the field. I thought he flashed, and that's what you want to see. You want to see the potential to influence the outcome of games, even if you're not getting a heavy workload. So shout out to Jordan McGee on that front. Now, I still want to see the Commanders get off to a better start here. They lost the time of possession battle by nearly 10 minutes despite dominating the entire second half, and that is a direct result of them getting off to slow starts. It was this week and last week. The other team scores a touchdown, then you get a 3-and-out by the Commanders' offense, then the other team scores a field goal, and you're in a 10-0 hole just like that. And you cannot continue to win football games by starting off in the first quarter in that manner. I'd have to look back. I feel like the Commanders were a good first quarter team last year. Again, I'd have to look back at that. But this year they have not been, and they've really got to get that ship righted before they move on. Herbert was pressured 20 times in this game. Jayden only 13. I thought the offensive line could have been better in some of the pass pro stuff, but did a solid job in the running game, I guess I could say. And that's, about half, what is that? Like 60% of the pressures that Herbert faced. So they did their job in that respect. And with all of that out of the way, let's move on over and let's talk about the 5 names to remember. Bam! Here we are. Back in the news screen. Really, I keep saying the news screen. Every week I say it's the news screen. It's the same screen you always see, but it's just new for this video. And we do have the 5 names to remember, guys, which could be coaches, players, anybody that affected the final outcome. We classify these players with 4 different categories. We have a green for you did a good job today, a yellow for that was shaky and I'm a little concerned, red for you lost us the game, I'm totally out, yada, 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 and then a dark green game ball. Because this was a win, we do have a game ball to give out today. I'm super excited, and it's mostly all positive stuff coming up here. Now, I could nitpick, I could look at certain aspects of the game, and in some ways I did already. The slow starts, the bailout plays, but I didn't really feel like there were players that were standing out for negative reasons. I felt like if something happened, it was a collective. How do you miss all those tackles on McConkey? How does the punt coverage not get there on that touchdown? The penalties. Well, who am I supposed to give a red to? The refs? I'm going to give the refs the game ball if they're going to give us calls that benefit us. The right calls, don't get me wrong, but still, what am I supposed to do there? So a lot of praise to go around today. Not many individual players that I want to call out. So let's start with a first green square for Javon Kinlaw. His name appeared in my notes more than any other player. I constantly, I never close my phone during games. I've got the notes app up and I'm writing stuff down. Javon Kinlaw's name there, I have to go back. It's a real nightmare going back and deleting notes because I'm commenting on basically every play. So it's tough to actually get it's tough to condense it and make a script that I can use for these videos. But Javon Kinlaw's name, as I was going through my notes, appeared more than anybody. And he had a modest box score at 3 tackles. That's it. But when you watch him play, he has been so incredibly disruptive. There was a play on the Chargers' first drive where he chopped the guard and then got a stuff on Hampton in the backfield. He got another pressure on a 3rd down later. There's so many times where he just uproots the center or the guard, throws him out of the way, and he completely reroutes the running back or makes the quarterback roll out of the pocket. And he's not going to put up great box scores, okay? Because that's the nature of being a defensive tackle if you're not Aaron Donald or Chris Jones, someone like that, a pass rushing defensive tackle, or especially when they get moved outside as well. We don't really do that with Javon Kinlaw. He's mostly always in the middle, but he has made such an impact on this defense. And I got to give Adam Peters massive credit here because he was criticized so heavily by local media, by national media. Everybody was saying, oh, okay, $15 million for Javon Kinlaw. That doesn't seem like the right move to me. I don't know. I'm no expert, but that doesn't seem like the right thing to do for me. Well, once again, proving why we are not experts, and I'm including myself in that. We aren't there breaking down footage. We aren't there interviewing these players. We aren't there speaking to their agents and coaches on other teams and personnel and players who might have worked with them in the past. Adam Peters called his shot, said, no, Javon Kinlaw is worth this money. I was with him in San Francisco. I know what he brings to the table. Kinlaw had quietly had a solid year last year with the Jets up until about week 13, which I want to say was their bye week and at the point where they were like eliminated from playoff contention, and then he completely fell off, which is a conversation for another day. But still, Kinlaw showed his stuff last year. Adam Peters said, you're worth the money. He's brought him here. He's been so incredibly disruptive on that defensive line. And now we're looking at this defensive line, including the edge rushers as well, which we're going to get to in just a second here. But we're looking at this defensive line as the strength of the defense, not the linebackers with the 2 all-pros from last year, not the secondary, which the local reporters wanted to say was going to be a top 10 unit all throughout training camp. That's all we heard, looking like a top 10 secondary in the NFL. We were terrified. We're like, the defensive line, they couldn't stop the run last year. They didn't sign a marquee edge rusher. How are they going to generate pressure? And then Wise gets injured, and then JJB gets injured, and they're fine. This has been the most reliable unit on the team for the entire season. Pretty much, who else is going to be in that conversation? Now that Bill's RB1, we're probably looking at running backs that way, but we didn't feel that way about them in the first couple of weeks. We liked what Bill showed, but we were like, still a 7th rounder. We don't know if we can depend on him. And then the Packers game, the running game wasn't there. Which unit has constantly been on their P's and Q's? It has been the defensive line. Javon Kinlaw right at the center of that. So massive shout out to him, deserving of a green square for this game. We're going to give another green to the returning man, the main man, Jayden Daniels. Jayden's impact. So in this game, the Commanders' EPA per dropback, EPA being a measure of scoring efficiency, it was in the 93rd percentile. The Chargers of Justin Herbert obviously was in the 12th percentile. As the game progressed, Cliff really opened up the playbook. And I don't know if Jayden had settled in so that he could work into that playbook, or letting him throw the ball down the field helped him settle in. But whatever it was, he was really just dicing that Chargers defense up. And I want to give him massive credit because this is not a low-level defense. This is the mastermind. This is Jesse Minter and Jim Harbaugh with this intricate zone coverage defense that had made the Chargers a top 3 pass defense in the NFL. They were excellent last season. They were excellent to start this season. And Jayden looked totally unbothered. Again, after the first quarter, once he warmed up, got his sea legs back under him, he was connecting on deep shots. The bomb to Luke, Lord have mercy. He was flat-footed, threw that thing 57 yards with a edge rusher coming in from behind trying to swat at the ball. I was worried that it was actually going to be a strip sack. Jayden was going to throw it. Defender was going to hit his arm. Ball was going to pop out. Chargers were going to cover it, and they're set up at the 5-yard line. Jayden is standing there, not jumping around, not stepping in, just standing still, flat foot, 57 yards in the air to Luke McCaffrey, and it's inch perfect. You couldn't have walked over and handed the ball to him at a better spot. And then you saw a nice throw to Jalen Lane. You saw a gorgeous rollout pass to Chris Moore, who dropped the ball. Look, Chris Moore, I gave you credit for making a big play, a big catch in the Giants game. Like, I'm sorry, it's nothing personal, but you're a receiver who can't catch. To the coaching staff, I get it. You don't want to You don't want to have a massive overhaul with youth because you want veterans you can trust. But Chris Moore didn't make the 53-man roster for a reason, and he's a veteran that you can't trust. Let's get Ja'Cory Brooks. If you got to sign somebody, if it's Robbie Chosen, I don't know, but let's get someone else out there. Because if Ja'Cory Brooks is in that same position as Chris Moore, the one thing I know about Brooks is he's got good hands, and I feel like he could catch that. But anyway, gorgeous pass to the back of the end zone from Jayden. You saw a couple big ones to Debo later in the game. He rifled one to Zach Ertz. He was just electric in this game, and he did it without his legs. What did he run for? Like 6 carries for 19 yards, something like that. In this game, his average depth of target was 10.4 yards. So an average pass was traveling beyond the first down marker. Justin Herbert was 4.8. So we can go back to what I was talking about with Herbert picking apart the zone coverage, which he did, but a lot of that was closer to the line of scrimmage. Jayden was actually putting his you-know-what's out on the table and trying to gun that thing down the field. So I was impressed by his ability. Overall, I was impressed by his ability to just kick the rust off so quickly. He didn't start the game well, and by the end of it, he was absolutely surgical, dissecting that Chargers defense and in total control. So after 3 weeks off, injury, playing with a knee brace for the first time in his life against a great defense on the road, starting in the 10-0 hole, no momentum. He's slipping when he's trying to scramble out the pocket. Thought he was excellent. So a green for Jayden Daniels. Welcome back, Jayden. We missed you. We're going to get another green, and I believe this is the second straight week for Luke McCaffrey. Now, I want to say this. Sports can boil down to a lot of things. They can be about coaching, preparation, attention to detail, intensity, luck, personal motivation. But above all else, sports are about moments. Luke McCaffrey's moment changed the game. There's a point in the game where the Commanders are trailing 10-7. They punt the ball to turn for a touchdown. They're down 17-7. Referees say, hey, that's roughing the kicker. We're going to give you the ball back. 1 minute left, backed up inside what would be your own red zone. You're trailing. You haven't had anything going offensively for the first half. Jayden throws a perfect pass. And Luke, on a kind of a not a skinny post, but it wasn't angled very far. It was a seam post against quarters coverage, gets past his man, safety squatting down, and he catches the ball. It's that simple. He catches the ball, but it's a catch that changes the way the game goes, because at 17-7, you're down 2 scores. At 10-7, you're still down 1 score, having no momentum. With that play, you made it a tie game going into halftime so that you could then come out, score on your first drive after halftime, and take the lead. And that was a difficult pass to catch. It was a perfect throw from Jayden, absolutely. But Luke is traveling at full speed. Defender draped all over him. It's a low catch point because he couldn't. Jayden had to arc it to get it over the defender. So Luke's not really extending outward like this. It's more of a downward extension so that he can cup it. He's got to bring it in and secure it despite having a low catch point while traveling full speed with the defender on him. And then also Luke has the wherewithal to, as soon as he catches the ball, he's not celebrating. He jumps up and he's looking around to hand the ball to the referee because he knows that they got to clock it so they can get up on the ball. I forget why the play. I don't know if there's a penalty. I don't know if somebody called a timeout. It ended up not mattering. The clock got stopped anyway. But Luke, that moment, just like I was talking about the Quan Martin fumble changed the game. That moment was where the Commanders arrived at this point. And this is what I got to say to Luke, because I made a hot takes. I think the second time I've mentioned my hot takes videos, put those out every Tuesday. One of my hot takes after week 1 was Luke was going to be inactive by week 8, by the middle of the season. Just saying, look, he's fallen down the pecking order. He's clearly not important to this team. And I think my logic at that time was sound, because in week 1, Luke played 5 snaps. All of them were on run plays. He was just put out there as a blocker. So the coaching staff was telling me and telling everyone, we don't want Luke on the field. Okay, well, reasonable to say he's out of the picture. Well, with Terry McLaurin's injury, with Noah Brown's injury, with the extra opportunities that became available, Luke McCaffrey has stepped up. This is 3 weeks in a row. He's made a splash play. He had a touchdown against the Raiders. Had a touchdown against the Falcons. He's had some outstanding kick returns. He started this game getting the ball out to like the 45 or something. And then he has that 50-yard catch today. So Luke is now at the point where he's consistently producing within his role. Does that mean he's the next Terry McLaurin? Does that mean he's the next number one receiver? No, not necessarily. But does it mean we're getting to a point where we can look at Luke as a consistent contributor and say, I trust you, I know what you're going to give me? We are certainly moving in that direction. So a green square for Luke McCaffrey. We got another green for Dorance Armstrong. Lots of green, film like money. Green for Dorance Armstrong. Oh, nothing big today. Just another 2 sacks, another 2 TFLs. Last week was his first game of the season without a sack. He responds with 2 today. So now we're back to 5 sacks in 5 games. You want to include the 3 playoff games last year, 8.5 sacks in his last 8 games. Dorance Armstrong's going to need to be ready to play significant snaps with the Wise and Javonte Jean-Baptiste injuries, but he's playing up to it. He's legitimately been a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL this season. And just like I said with Javon Kinlaw, on the defense with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, who were all pros last year, on a defense with Mike Sainristil and Trey Amos, who are both second-round picks. Marshawn Lattimore is a pretty big name. Quan Martin was ready for this Pro Bowl leap. I know Will Harris is now injured, but he was a veteran who was a hard hitter, had made some splash plays before. We weren't looking at the defensive line. In fact, we were looking at Dorance Armstrong like, you're the guy? We haven't seen you be the guy at any point in your career, and we're not sure that you're ready to be that. Only had 5 sacks last year. He's already matched that total through 5 weeks, and he has taken his game to a whole other level. It's not just sacks. Sack numbers sometimes can be misleading. He's getting pressures. He's getting TFLs. He's playing the run well. He's being physical. He is doing everything that this coaching staff is asking him to do. So to be on what was supposed to be a weak unit, make that the best unit on the team, and then be the best performer within that, I can't say enough good things about Dorance Armstrong, and he had yet another outstanding game today. So the final recipient of a green box in this video is Dorance Armstrong, and I'm happy to give him his just due. Now, I say that was the final green because we're going to close this out with a dark green game ball for Mr. Bill, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. This guy, man, I said his breakout was coming. I said it before the Raiders game. I said, I don't know what it's going to happen, but one of these games, he's going to get 16, 17 carries. He's going to go for 100 yards. He's going to go for 2 touchdowns. He didn't need the 16 or 17 carries. He got to it on 14. 14 carries for 111 yards, 7.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, another 2 receptions for 39 yards to give him 150 all-purpose yards in this game. I can't say enough good things about the guy. Genuinely. It's so wild that I feel this way and that we feel this way. The fan base has fallen in love with Bill the way that we have. He was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, 4 years at Alabama State, barely rushed for 500 yards in a season, and any of them doesn't play as a senior because he's ineligible. I just don't know what happened. I don't know if the talent evaluators messed up. I don't know if he stayed the course. I don't know if he found a new weight training program. I don't know if his preparation got better. I don't know what happened. But Bill, and I say this as sincerely as I possibly can, because I don't lie to you guys. I know we're all Commanders fans here for the most part, 99% of us. I know we're all Commanders fans. I am a straight shooter. I don't fluff. I don't lie. Bill is running the football. We can talk about pass blocking and receiving out of the backfield and that other stuff, but he is running the football like a top 5 back in the league. He's breaking tackles at an elite level. I already think he might have the best vision in football. Genuinely. No hole is closed to him. If it's a play that's drawn up to the right and he sees something on the left, he'll run right, do a whirling dervish, whoopsie-doo, split back left, and he's going to go for 12 yards. He makes the play with Derwin James in the backfield where they grab him on his helmet spins around like a bobblehead, and he shoots back up to the right side, and Jayden's getting out as a lead blocker. What are you supposed to do there? That is a 1-yard loss for nearly every running back in the league, but it becomes a 15 to 20-yard gain for Bill. Of his 14 carries in this game, only 3 went for less than 5 yards. He's not just big plays. He's consistent plays. I was getting so frustrated with Cliff Kingsbury. Like, I get it, man. Pass protection for your back is crucial. Ashton Genty's getting Geno Smith killed out there. Not to pick on the guy because Genty's incredible. But you can see what it does. Bill had missed some blocking assignments, created pressure, led to sacks from Mariota and Daniels. I get it, man. But when you put the ball in his hand, good things don't happen. Incredible things happen. Basically, every time that he runs the football. He's now averaging 6.6 yards per carry for the entire season. Not one game. That's a good game. 6.6 yards per game. That's a good game. For the season, he's running away with it. Travis Etienne had led the league. Now, he plays tonight on Monday Night Football, but he was at 6.1, which was pretty outstanding. I want to say Saquon and Derrick Henry were at like 5.6 and 5.8 last year, and they're in for 2,000 and 1,900 yards. And I'm not saying Bill's better than them, but just on a general efficiency, this guy is just unstoppable. And if you want to know why the offense has been able to look as good as it has without Terry McLaurin, without Noah Brown, John Bates was back this week, but he had missed time. With offensive line changes, you want to know why the quarterbacks have been able to look so good. Obviously, they did a good job themselves, but it's because there's a respectable running game. Last year, the Commanders did not have that. Jayden Daniels was the only running threat. No disrespect to Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. and Jeremy McNichols. Teams weren't worried about them. They knew that they had to defend against the pass and the pass only. So when you get to the NFC Championship game and the Eagles are dropping 8-7 guys every single time and saying, we're just keeping in front of us, we don't have to worry about running the ball because we know Jalen Carter can take on 2 offensive linemen by himself. Jordan Davis can do the same. And then our linebackers are going to fly to the ball and you can't break any tackles. You put your quarterback in an unwinning position. Now, with a guy who's breaking tackles at one of the highest rates in the NFL, leading the league in yards per carry, this is legitimately a power run team, but with a mobile quarterback, with some receivers who can get open in different ways. You can throw screens, you can throw deep shots, you can run the intermediate stuff. You've got a tight end in Zach Ertz who can beat man coverage. You have all this stuff. That's how you make this offense unstoppable. And Bill, we're 5 games in, man, but he is now RB1. Chris Rodriguez Jr. did not get on the field until the 3rd quarter. So I think they've learned that they are going to, or they figured out they're going to feed Bill like a true bell cow, and I am excited to see it. But guys, that's going to do it for this video today. Again, the 5 names to remember. We got greens for Dorance Armstrong, Luke McCaffrey, Jayden Daniels, Javon Kinlaw, and a dark green game ball for Mr. Bill Croskey-Merritt. I'm going to go ahead and head on out of here. Make sure you hit the like button. If you guys did enjoy this, to the new viewers, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. Jump down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on the game, your standout players as well, and my 5 picks for the 5 names to remember. And as I always say, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.
Chew with me. Got a little chew with me.